Okay, week 85, Justice for Qadira. And today I'm just going to start off with an article that just literally made my blood boil this morning. It was on Coin, and it's called Man Receives 6-Year Sentence After Groping Middle School Student.
But before my wife begins, I just want to say something, folks. Folks, we're not going anywhere as a race of beings. We're supposed to be progressing. But if we are not going to be responsible with the way that we are running our society, don't expect us to be moving forward.
To be no progress.
We have to be responsible. And that means not ignoring problems. That means when problems are being reported to our society, we need to take them seriously. We can't just ignore them and then hope that they will go away.
Especially people in positions of authority who can do something about them. Because, you know, we're standing here almost 16 years since the date of our daughter's abuse, and still nothing's been done, which, like, again, I want to read this article because it just made me angry. This was on Coin this morning. It's right here in Portland, Oregon. Uriel Nava Montoya, 29, pled guilty to first-degree sexual abuse and public indecency. A man was sentenced to more than 6 years in prison on Tuesday after groping a Mountain View middle school student last year. Uriel Nava Montoya, 29, pled guilty to first-degree sexual abuse and public indecency. He received a 75-month prison sentence. According to the Washington County Sheriff's Office, the 12-year-old female victim witnessed Nava Montoya expose his genitals at Mountain View Champions Park in Beaverton while walking to school on September 7th, 2022. The student started walking faster to the school, but Nava Montoya caught up to her and touched her butt. The victim ran to school and immediately reported the incident, officials said. Nava Montoya followed the victim to the school and was found wandering around the property by school staff. He told staff members that he was on campus to enroll his kid in school, but was escorted off campus when he gave staff a fake address and multiple background stories, officials said. WCSO said Nava Montoya then went to Chehalem Elementary School and attempted to share a similar fraudulent story before being arrested. At the time of his arrest, he was on probation for third-degree sex abuse and public indecency for exposing his genitals at a grocery store and touching a woman's butt weeks earlier, officials said. So that was the article this morning on Coin, and it just, again, it just angers me because it's like our daughter was coerced to play a naked game. She was physically assaulted, possibly raped and molested. These people, they picked her up and ran around the house with her, stuffed her naked in a towel in their basement for God knows how long. We are still struggling with the details of April 12th, 2007. We can't figure out what happened there or in the days following because, again, our daughter was seen by multiple doctors who did not help her in our community. And then we've spent the last 16 years trying to get the police to act, and because this person's related to a politician, they've been allowed to run the neighborhood. And again, I encourage parents, check in with your kids because there's a predator living in the neighborhood, a dangerous predator, okay? 2 of them. Because a lot of these child abusers, they do work, female-male teams, and that's what I think Todd and Amy are and we're doing. So because the police have never investigated, talked to them, looked at them, whatever, because of their position in the community, it's just really sad because I can see how it's very easy for predators to target low-income minorities, essentially, because we are just not believed, period. My daughter, despite all the physical injuries and everything, she's been, psychologically manipulated by the police and the community and just told over and over that what happened was an accident. Why? Because some nice white people did it? You just take them at their word that there was nothing going on at the house, even though they had someone else's naked 8-year-old child, all abused in their basement.
Now, obviously,
none of this has been okay for the last 16 years. It's not going to be okay. And we're going to continue to get out here until something's done about it. I can assure the community, though, we've been knocking on all these doors, and what bothers me, and I'll let you talk in a minute, honey. What bothers me is that nothing's been done. I mean, all these people that are covering up this crime, they're still sitting there, you know, in their positions of authority.
Even higher levels
and even
of
higher
authority.
levels now, because a lot of them have been promoted, I think, for covering up this crime. So how are we supposed to change anything in this city or in this state or in this nation or in this world if, you know, essentially what we have is a monetary system where people can just be paid off for doing bad things and then the money just spends the same? Because I do think these people have been paid off.
Obviously, they've been paid off. They've been put in higher positions of authority, which comes with bigger paychecks.
That's right. That's right.
What I was going to say, though, was that the story that my wife just read, obviously the assailant was a person of color. They right away went and grabbed this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Went and snatched him up. He can't say it's an accident. They're not going to be listening to any tall tales from him. The only reason Todd and Amy were allowed to tell tall tales is because they were white and related to a politician and, you know, connected to money. And that's a real sad state of affairs because it's no way to actually manage crime in our society if people who are...
Not,
sorry, go ahead.
It's not a responsible way to run a society, and that's why you're seeing the breakdown of our society.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I've got a message to you and to her. I've got a new Never Before Released song on SoundCloud. It's called Too Late to Play, and it's got really good additions to you and her. It's an old song from the 1990s by Tupac and MC Hammer. It's called Too Late to Play. It's on SoundCloud.
Okay.
We can play it. We'll play it off camera because they'll block us because it's copyrighted. But if you tell me the song, we'll play it.
Yeah, Too Late to Play right here.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
We'll add that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We'll play it. We'll play it after when we're done here. Thank you, sir.
On SoundCloud. And then later on, you can play my original debut rap song.
Oh, this is yours?
Yes. And it's in the liner notes. It'll say actually on BandLab. In the liner notes, it says so you can feel it in an all look rappy way like fire. It's
Okay.
gonna be my new album that's coming out in March. And it's gonna be called Chasing a Fire Dream.
What's your name?
I'm Nick, or otherwise known as MC Salvation, and that's my artist name that I got from high school.
Cool. Thank you, Nick.
And announce to the world there can be a 5-part series on FX starting on April 21st with all about Tupac and his mom.
Okay.
Called Dear Mama.
Okay. Don't get hit.
Thank
Okay.
you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
And you're going to go see Future in April on Saturday, April 1st.
Okay. Okay, so, what were you going to say, honey? Okay. So what were you going to say, honey?
Folks, I was just, I was talking about the irresponsibility of, so it's not just the leadership, okay? We are actually, you know, the citizens, the global citizens of the planet here are being irresponsible when we are allowing these people to
manipulate.
Yeah, and run our society in such an irresponsible manner.
And just into the ground. They're running it into the ground because it's like every time you have an event like this, like what happened to our daughter, because we know we're not the only ones who are being subjected to this abuse and discrimination and corruption within the system, because people are working for paychecks, right? They're not working for one another.
No, we're not working to take care of people, and that is the problem that we are running into on this planet.
All over the globe. I mean, and it doesn't really matter what situation you're looking at. We've got the toxic event going on in Ohio.
There are several of those train derailments.
Right.
It doesn't look like a coincidence, you guys.
Well, who knows? But the fact of the matter is we know that people aren't being taken care of, you know, and that's all. That always seems to be the problem here, you know, on planet Earth. even though we've set up all these government institutions, people are not really being well cared for when things like this happen. These companies, they're always trying to protect themselves from liability.
Right.
Then you have law enforcement trying to protect themselves from liability, and nobody is ever being honest. And I just want to say...
And nobody is being held responsible or accountable, actually.
I just... oh, you want to grab... Well...
No, it fell off of his finger, sorry.
Well, it's done deal. Anyway, and it's very difficult. Honesty saves everybody a lot of time. So me and my husband, we've been up here telling you the truth. We've been telling the truth for years. And, because there are high-ranking people, in law enforcement who involve themselves in covering up this crime, nothing's getting done about it. But what needs to be done is something needs to be done about those people who are abusing the system and abusing their power. And we need to find a way to fix this issue, because if somebody can just get themselves a big raise by covering up crimes and they're in law enforcement, how do you really fix anything? You know what I'm saying? Because they're the ones, they decide whether there is an investigation. Do you want to go pick that up out of the road? Just so people don't have to go around it. They're the ones that decide if there's an investigation. They decide if anything gets done about anything. They're the ones deciding if literally citizens are protected. In our daughter's case, obviously, we left a suspected child abuser, child molester, pedophile just on the loose. And it's never been looked into. And we've heard a litany of excuses from law enforcement, but honestly, none of them are good. They're not even excuses anymore. They're just, we can't really tell you why things went that way, or we can't really explain to you what's in these reports, and we can't show you these reports, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, our daughter is not even allowed access to her own report that she made when she was 9 years old. So we are being stalled everywhere. I mean, there's just been obstruction everywhere we've went. And if people in positions of authority can commit crimes like this, like on the books and just so openly, and then people like us, have to get out on street corners for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years to get anything done about it, what does that really say about the great American justice system? Not much. I mean, I think we all know it's an injustice system, but our daughter's case in particular has been pushed through to a lot of people who, should have done something at this point.
Well, they should have been doing their job.
Yeah.
But every single person that came into contact with our daughter has not done their job.
And
they haven't done their job. Like the doctors were supposed to treat her. They did not treat her. Okay, they were supposed to report to DHS and the police. They didn't do that.
And our testimony about our daughter not being treated should matter, since we were the ones tasked with treating her. This was no small wound. This was, by their own diagnosis, burn, 10 to 19% of her body. I mean, she second and third degree burns. I mean, via the American Burn Association, she was supposed to be transferred to a burn unit. This is why she suffers from the health problems she suffers from today. And the doctors that did this to her need to be held accountable. It's very difficult to hold people accountable when you can't even make a police report. So I want to be really clear about what we're up against here. Trying to make these reports and then actually get them investigated. We've been trying, people. It's not like for lack of, we don't just get out on the corner. We've been down to the police station. We've been down to the DA's office. And it's really interesting to me because I wake up this morning and this guy was put in prison for 6 years for groping a 12-year-old. That's it. I like I said, I want to be clear.
That's good. That's good. No, people like that shouldn't be out on the street.
Right.
And they should be held accountable. But our system can't do that willy-nilly.
Yeah, you can't just pick and choose. If that's considered groping, what happened to our daughter
if that's considered sex abuse, what happened to our daughter needs to be,
it needs to be really seriously looked into and dealt with. And at this point, I just feel like for the city, this is becoming a national embarrassment. The only reason it's not a national embarrassment yet is because it hasn't hit the news. And obviously, again, there we run into this block with the monetary system because people can just be paid to do the wrong thing. And that's what you see all over the world. That's why we have war. You know, that's why we have so much poverty and all this and that and the other. This isn't anything God is doing to us. It's poor organization and it's lack of valuing the life. So it's just like what happened over there in Turkey and Syria with these massive earthquakes. Like, humanity is always unprepared because caring for one another is not our focus. And in fact, in our daughter's case, what we see is throwing people away is, you know, that's just something that happens.
That's just our MO here on this planet.
Right.
Because it's not our goal to take care of people.
So when we deem somebody unworthy, they get thrown away. And what we're seeing is people being thrown away, actual people being thrown away all over the planet. And then everybody's complaining because the people who have been thrown away are not acting right. Well, I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all born here, we get to live, give or take 100 years, and you know, we're in 2023 and people are still all over the planet living in squalor, being disregarded, being treated like they don't matter. Yet I'd say most of people on the planet say they believe in God and think that we should be doing better for one another, but that effort isn't really being made.
It's not being made because our focus is still money.
It's just constantly money.
Folks, you can't serve two masters, okay? And right now, it's either God or money. Right now, we are serving money. And that is all we are doing here on this planet. And we are moving, we are retrogressing. We are not progressing, okay? We are not moving forward. We are going backwards on this planet.
We're devolving.
Because we are not establishing the actual true value of our race of beings, which is our life.
Right.
We have not said that that is an actual thing that matters here on this planet.
And I can tell
to our race of beings.
I can tell you from our case, just our specific case and everything we've dealt with for the last 16 years, the disregard for the life of our daughter has been just it's just wholly almost unimaginable. I mean, I get why people struggle to even believe our story, because how do this many, you know, educated public officials in all these positions of power just decide to just kick the shit out of an 8-year-old child, an 8-year-old abuse victim, a burn victim? No, you know what I'm saying? Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we believe it was done to upset us. We believe that they were trying to incite us to violence. And I do believe that they're upset that we were never incited to violence, because that's not what me and my husband are here to do. Okay? We're not here to show our anger, but we will show our disappointment, okay? And our grief over this horrific situation. You know, our daughter still is waiting for even an apology, an investigation, you know, something. Right now, just some kind of acknowledgement that this even happened, because it was so egregious. I mean, after these people burned her and molested her, we took her to doctors who told us to go away. And that's a serious claim. That's a serious charge. We hired an attorney who made the decision to subject our little daughter at 9 years old, 8 and 9 years old, to illegal photographing, illegal interviewing. This was severe psychological abuse of a child who had already been abused. And I mean whole groups of adults abusing her. The only time she was ever allowed at the age of 9 to recount her story of abuse was in front of an attorney and her actual abuser, the woman that poured the water on her. And my daughter can't even not only can she not get help from law enforcement, but I mean, no attorney in this town wants to touch this case because all these high-level people did this to her.
And she cannot get proper medical care because all the doctors want to deny that this even happened to her.
Exactly. So they just inserted in her medical records that this was an accident, even though we all know it wasn't. And, you know, then from there, they felt that because it was an accident, I guess, they didn't have to treat her. You know, it's almost, the two crimes are, or the equally egregious. She was burned and assaulted and molested at the house. Then, you know, she goes to the doctors and she's abused again.
Denied all kinds of medical care.
You know, sent home with me and my husband, who are not doctors in any capacity or nurses or anything like that. And then we get an attorney who continues to psychologically abuse her and not handle her case appropriately.
He doesn't get the police involved. He doesn't have a proper investigation done on this at all. And it turns out that he knows the family. He didn't tell us that.
No, he put our daughter through this entire proceeding in which
so he can protect these people from criminal liability.
And she got nothing.
Or criminal prosecution. And this is not, folks, this is not okay. This was not okay.
No, and Scott Qadira is still a 5-star child abuse attorney.
He's a child abuse attorney. He's representing other children.
He could be preying on families now, because I tell you right now, when we retained Scott, we believed him. We thought he knew what he was talking about. We thought these proceedings that we were bringing our daughter to were legal proceedings. They were not. You cannot photograph and interview a child like that. You cannot lie to your client like that. But I'll tell you, we've complained about this man. We tried to report him to the police. We tried to report him to the bar. He has been insulated this entire time and out in the community, possibly preying on other families, probably preying on other families.
And
you know, as well as this judge that was involved in these proceedings. This is some sick stuff, you guys. And people don't know what they're dealing with generally when they're dealing with the legal system. Me and my husband didn't. And these people really ran circles around us. I mean, I am concerned for anybody that would have contact with the people we're talking about. Scott Qadira, Rudy Lockenmeyer, Todd Burkholder, Amy McQuiston.
Judge Michael McShane.
These doctors, Julie Andrews, Sarah Tubingstein, Dr. Nakamuli, Dr. David Salons. I have
Dr. Nancy Gordon-Swirling.
Yeah,
actually, she's not a doctor, but
all these reports. Well, she's I can't remember.
Nurse practitioner.
Yeah. These people really did some horrific things.
You want to say something?
I have a message to I have some messages that I can just add on. It's just like one sentence.
One sentence. Go ahead.
So, well, we are here just trying to do, we are here to frolic around in a better way.
That's good. Yes.
I agree with that.
Yes, we are trying to do better.
Yeah,
we're trying to do better.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Frolic around in a better way.
Frolic around in a better way.
Hey,
If people can get that done, I'd be happy.
That would be great.
So, you know, again, we get out here because the community is literally in danger, and no matter how many people we report it to,
no matter how many doors we knock on,
we can't seem to get the right people. I mean, these people need to be taken out of their positions of authority. They need to be questioned on this. Anything they've touched needs to be looked at, because this is some really egregious behavior towards a child. Scott didn't know Qadira. He didn't know our family. I don't know why he did what he did. It seems he did it to upset us. He did so. He did upset us. Luckily, we have chosen to turn to God and not turn to violence. Okay? Most people turn to violence. As you can see, we just had another mass shooting. It was at the University of Michigan. Who can keep up with the chaos on the planet at this point? It's not even healthy. I try to look at it every day and kind of see what's humanity up to, and oh my God, it's just a shit show every day, right?
It's not good, folks. This is not good.
But we have very, very, very poor leadership, so I can understand why people are being manipulated down these really dark roads. But we need to find a way to turn this around, and it really starts here. As soon as we can bust this thing wide open, and I don't know what it's going to take. Me and my husband, we've decided there's no timeline on this.
Folks, we are dedicated to this for the rest of our lives. If we have to.
No timeline.
Okay.
We'll just do it for the rest of our lives.
To figure this out, but it needs to get figured out, because it's not getting figured out. You have all these high-level people, community leaders, committing crimes. They're committing crimes on the books, and they're not being held accountable, and you're not even getting to know about it because the media's involved in suppressing this story. So, folks, I don't know how we're supposed to make anything better here, but this is not the way.
I think what the community, what we're really asking for the community is, let's care about Qadira, and let's not care so much about our public officials who committed these crimes, because they're not helping anybody.
Yeah, folks, if these people need to go to jail,
under.
they need to go to jail.
The whole city's going under.
Those are adult decisions that they made. Okay? And the only reason why they continue to do what they're doing is because they see that the community is not responding in a way that would actually get them to actually make them
react,
or hold them accountable.
You know, and I think that one of the things is when you're dealing with your public officials, you know, they respond to violence. That's one of the things I've been talking about. Is one of the things me and my husband are out here doing, because we are pacifists, is we are practicing nonviolent conflict resolution, which I don't know that our public officials they don't really know how to engage with that, because they don't want to be held accountable. It's much easier when people protest violently, because then they can come out and be the good guys and just arrest the violent protesters, or not. As we've seen here in Portland, they seem to let them run rampant and do whatever they want. I hear we have this serious window breaking problem. I wonder who's paying for that. You know what I'm saying? Because everything that's going on in the city right now, I really believe is a distraction from this. Because this is so serious and so bad, and it goes all the way up to our own Attorney General and other high-ranking people. We need to understand this. We need to pick it apart, because this was a child. You know, you can be angry at me and my husband all you want, and we experience a lot of that up here. People driving by and being nasty and whatever because they don't want to hear about it. You know, in this case, they wanted the victim to be 6 feet under. She lived. That's a problem for everybody. And we're still here telling the story. Me and my husband, we're still married. We're still together. We're still on top of this enough to know that it was wrong. So the fact of the matter is yelling at us isn't going to help you. What we need to do is start understanding why a child in our community was so physically abused and molested and psychologically abused, you know, by law enforcement, by the community. And I consider law enforcement's non-response to this protest for so long, that is also another form of psychological abuse to the community, because they are trying to show you, all of you, that this doesn't matter. This is how they downplay what we're talking about, by not responding. And what I'm telling people is you need to question that, because that is what they did to us at the hospitals. When we brought Qadira in, they downplayed her injury. That's why she was only seen for 17 minutes the first night, then 25 minutes the second day. Then I think we took her back again on the 16th. It was just a little appointment. She was never routed to the burn center, never even routed to a burn doctor at all for even an evaluation. We have a second grader pediatric burn, which, like I said, the American Burn Association, if you look at their criteria for transfer to a burn center, she met all the criteria. But to this day, her medical records are still sitting in the repository falsified. These are falsified records. They labeled what happened to her an accident that night without investigation.
Without an investigation.
They didn't even
How do you do that? How do you do that?
She was brought to the hospital naked, wrapped in a towel. They didn't perform a rape kit. They didn't even perform anything. They literally wrapped up her leg and told us to leave. And every time we brought her to the hospital subsequently after that, that's what they did. She was never treated for her burn. And that's what the record shows. And God forbid they're doing this to other children. That's what really worries me, is that people in this community are so mad at me and my husband for continuing to
hammer away at this thing
and hammer away at this. They're not even thinking about the other victims out there or the victim herself.
Folks, when
They're
we
just worried
cannot,
about us, and that's just silly.
when we cannot protect the most vulnerable among us, we are failing as a society. We are failing as a society when we cannot protect the most vulnerable among us.
That's right. And when we're not even trying. You know, I feel very badly. I mean, and so does our daughter. We all feel very badly that nobody did their job, because The person who suffered all the consequences from that was Qadira. She's the one with the lifelong medical problems from this. She's the one that is doing all the suffering. So I would just ask the public, your misplaced anger, you need to start directing it in the right spot. Because it's our public officials that put us all in this situation, and there are laws that govern all of this, and we shouldn't be in this situation. Me and my husband shouldn't be on the street corner. We shouldn't even be able to tell you such things happen, because within the American justice system, there should be some checks and balances that should have stopped this freight train.
But there aren't, folks. Not when money's involved.
No.
And not when big money's involved. When big money's involved, people lose. And that is an issue that we have to start addressing. We need to start attacking it directly. Because if people cannot matter in our society, that means we do not have a society, folks. We don't have a society.
Can you find that letter for me? I don't know where the drive's at. The letter from the police. That's something I wanted to read today. Again, I couldn't find it on the drive. I want to read this letter that we received from the police in 2009, because again, I think it's really telling of the incident. I think I've read it before, but I want to read it again because they literally admit that they were screaming at me on the phone. I'm the parent of a physically abused child, and they admit that they screamed at me, yelled at me, hung up the phone on me, and are disregarding me. And this is the treatment we've had all these years. I don't know how people, sexual assault survivors, can even come forward under this climate. This whole business of believe all victims, they didn't even believe this 8-year-old child, even when she was naked and burned up. They believed the abuser. So, and they've continued to believe and protect the abuser. And that is a sad state for local law enforcement to be in. So I just want to read this letter. We received this May 14th, 2009, after complaining about the treatment we received down at the PPB. And again, I want everybody to know we are people of color. That's just a fact. Okay? Dear Mrs. Stevens, the Portland Police Bureau's Internal Affairs Division has completed the review of your complaint. In the complaint you filed with the Independent Police Review Division, which was forwarded to the Internal Affairs Division, you made the following allegations. Sergeant Liu failed to do an investigation of possible child abuse. Sergeant Liu was argumentative, rude, and hung up the phone on you. Chief Sizer did not respond to your letter requesting an investigation. I have reviewed the information in your complaint, your letter to Chief Sizer, relevant police reports, and your correspondence with the Oregon State Bar. On April 12, 2007, your daughter Qadira was severely burned on her left leg by scalding hot water while visiting a friend's house. Okay, so the police admit it. The Portland police were not called at that time, and instead you opted for a civil trial. Okay, I want to break that down. Nobody opts for a civil trial. We don't allow criminals to opt for civil trials, and we certainly didn't stop anybody from calling the police. Me and my husband were extremely traumatized after finding our daughter naked and burned up and molested in a basement, and then we were tasked with her physical care. We were told to go to the medical store and get bandages and Silvadine. This was no small wound we were dealing with.
Folks, and the doctors had a legal, not to mention an ethical and moral obligation to report.
They were supposed to call the police and DHS to have an investigation that night. It appears that the other party involved, Amy McQuiston, was found to be absolved of negligence in that civil trial.
Folks, that's another thing right there. You cannot be found, you can't be absolved of negligence of a child in a civil court. That child neglect is a crime.
Child neglect.
It can only be prosecuted in a criminal court.
Exactly. So this is on official letterhead, by the way, this nonsense that I'm reading. On August 16, 2008, your husband Renee contacted Portland Police Officer Herb Miller at Central Precinct 16 months after the initial incident. Officer Miller wrote a police report with the details that Renee provided, then contacted our child abuse team. On August 16, 2008, was a Saturday, which is not normal business hours for the child abuse team, though a sergeant is always on call and can be reached by phone. Since the incident was 16 months old and Qadira was safe, the report was faxed to the child abuse team and would be later reviewed for possible follow-up. Now, I want to break that down. Qadira was not safe because she hasn't been safe this entire time, because failure to acknowledge the severity of her burn has led to nothing but complications. Also, they just skim over the fact that the hospitals were supposed to call the police, and the fact that we had an attorney involved who was mandated by law, again, to call the police. So, Officer Miller wrote a police report with the details that Renee provided, then contacted our child abuse team. I read that part. So it was a Saturday. They couldn't be bothered. They said they'd get back to us when they could. On October 14, 2008, the Portland Police Bureau's Chief's office received your letter that was not dated. It was time-stamped as received at 9:39 a.m. and immediately given to the Investigations Branch Assistant Chief Brett Smith. Assistant Chief Smith gave it to our Detective Division Commander John Eckhart for review. Your letter details the burn incident, your phone contact with Sergeant Dan Liu of the child abuse team, the civil trial, and also mentions your complaint with the Oregon State Bar. Commander Eckhart reviewed the entire case in your letter in a timely manner. On October 29th, 2008, he wrote a memorandum to Assistant Chief Smith. The memorandum stated, I have found no criminal violations by any of the listed parties. There is also no evidence of any wrongdoing or policy violations of any Portland police personnel. I request this case be closed with no additional review. I want to say something about John Eckhart. He was implicated in some kind of something because I Googled him, but I don't know, he was working for the OLCC, I think, something like that. He was implicated in being involved with some club where there was kids stripping, teenagers stripping. So, I don't know. The guy's dirty. I just want to say that. You can Google that. John Eckhart. Though Chief Sizer did not write back a letter. He said, I request this case be closed with no additional review. Though Chief Sizer did not write a letter back to you, I assure you that your letter to her was reviewed by the appropriate police personnel and evaluated to determine if a full investigation was necessary. On April 16, 2009, I contacted the Oregon State Bar and was provided with many documents pertaining to your case. Most specifically, I looked at correspondence between their general counsel and you. On November 17, 2008, Assistant General Counsel Scott Morrill wrote you stating, Mr. Kocher was educated at Harvard, and Mr. Kocher communicated extensively with you about your daughter's claim and explained the risks and possible rewards of litigating it. On November 26, 2008, you replied, I do not believe that a Harvard degree is an indication that a person is ethical or trustworthy. On December 5th, 2008, Scott Morrill wrote to Mr. Scott Kocher's attorney, Mark Fusile, stating, as you know, we dismissed Ms. Stevens' complaint because we did not find any ethical violations had occurred. So, again, here's the Oregon State Bar covering up for Scott after he literally exploited our daughter, our 8- and 9-year-old daughter. Illegally interviewed her, illegally photographed her multiple times, claiming he was trying to get this resolved when he was not, okay? He was actually working for the family that abused her. Okay. On February 2nd, 2009, General Counsel Sylvia Stevens wrote you stating, your complaint about Mr. Kocher is that he was incompetent in representing your daughter's injury case. Mr. Kocher is an experienced personal injury lawyer who has tried many cases successfully. The evidence indicates he thoroughly prepared your daughter's case and presented it to the best of his ability. That you disagree with some of his choices, now regret your decisions, or are disappointed by the jury verdict is not evidence that he was incompetent or failed to communicate with you as required by our rules. After carefully considering the facts presented, I concur with the Client Assistance Office dismissal of your complaint. The Oregon State Bar's file concerning your complaint is now closed. Here we go again. Scott's friends covering up for him.
The problem is that they're not dealing with anything. These people committed crimes. They committed crimes. They're not dealing with that. They don't deal with any of the...
anything. Here, I spoke with Sergeant Liu, who said he personally spoke with Officer Miller the day he took the report. Sergeant Liu told Officer Miller to write the report and fax it to him so that he could read it the following Monday. Sergeant Liu acknowledged that he did speak with you and possibly Renee on a couple of occasions. Sergeant Liu said that you demanded an investigation, though one was not appropriate in this situation because of timeliness and that it appeared to be an accident. Again, psychological abuse. The victim has already said it wasn't an accident. Sergeant Liu remembered you or Renee stating, "What if it was your kid?" Sergeant Liu said he did, indeed, hang up on you because you were yelling at him over the phone. Sergeant Liu said he told you to lower your voice or he would terminate the conversation. When you did not comply, Sergeant Liu hung up the phone. Really? That's how the Portland police treats a parent who's distressed after a child was abused and then exploited and molested by her attorney. That's what they did when my daughter was a little girl. They're hanging up on me, screaming at me. Oh, but they're trying to protect the community from violence, aren't they? Right? They care about domestic extremism and all this and that. So yelling at your citizens and upsetting them over serious matters, that's how you protect the community. I don't think so. Portland Police Bureau employees are not expected to stay on the phone while the other party yells at him or her. Sergeant Liu acted appropriately in this situation, especially since he did warn you of the pending disconnection. This is all abuse of power. Lastly, I contacted Department of Human Services caseworker Firdousi Chowdhury. This case was previously assigned to her. She said she visited your home and Amy's home, which is not true. She did not visit the perpetrator's home.
She did not interview Todd, Amy, or Sophie, folks.
In November of 2008, she closed your case, noting the injury was an accident, which is not true.
She said it was unable to determine.
They said it was unable to determine, and she falsified the report. So people just don't understand how intricate this really is. I do wholeheartedly agree with you that Qadira getting severely burned at a friend's house. See how they like to rub it in, put some salt in the wound as much as they can, was a horrible and unfortunate event. This experience was obviously terrifying and painful for not only Qadira, but you and your family. Given that I have no information that leads me to believe that the Portland Police Bureau acted inappropriately in regard to your case, usually in child injury cases such as this one, the first instinct of most people is to seek medical attention and notify the police. I am not saying that this case would have turned out differently had you notified police sooner, but at least a preliminary investigation by both police and the Department of Human Services would have occurred immediately following the incident. Reporting this incident to the police 16 months after the occurrence has put all the involved parties at a great disadvantage. Administrative rule blah 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 allows me to decline to assign allegations for a full IAD investigation and take no further action if I find the employee's conduct as alleged by the complainant does not violate Bureau policy. At this time, I find that the conduct in this matter does not violate Bureau policy. Therefore, IAD declines to take any further action on your complaint. Okay, sincerely, Christy Galvan, Acting Lieutenant, Internal Affairs Division. I'm just saying, this is ridiculous treatment. I mean, they're saying the first instinct of most people is call the police. Well, why didn't the doctors call the police? Why didn't because they had no contact with the perpetrators. We didn't know what happened. Our daughter was severely injured. She was brought to the hospital, her face completely swollen from crying, completely in shock and completely burned up, and nobody calls the police. And then they give us this huge wound to take care of when we're not doctors, and they're going to put here's the police putting it all on us. Oh, you didn't call the police, and since this investigation didn't happen right that night, there can never be one. Again, we didn't call the police because we were completely traumatized, but we certainly didn't stop anybody from calling the police. We would have welcomed that. The doctors were welcome to call the police. Her attorney was welcome to call the police. Her school could have called the police. Lots of people in this situation could have called the police who weren't having to care for the victim. Because me and my husband, our main thing was caring for the victim. Somebody had to care about the victim. In fact, the last 16 years, our whole lives have been about caring for the victim. Whereas law enforcement has been caring about the perpetrator the entire time. I guess because they're white and related to a politician. You know, And they've played this game with the community. Like I said, this is all psychological abuse because they stay away from our rallies because this is a way of trying to convey to the public that this doesn't matter, so they don't have to clean house.
Folks, the amount of disappointment that exists in my heart for humanity at this point is undescribable. But I believe in humanity. I know we can do better. I know that if we would actually just start really concerning ourselves with what actually matters, which is the caring of people and the caring of life here on our planet, we might be able to actually turn things around here. But we're not going to get to that point if we can't even acknowledge what actually matters. So, my wife and I, we're going to be out here, okay? Sometimes we get out here, we're frustrated, okay? That's what you're hearing, okay? A lot of times we're out here, we're frustrated because we're dealing with a system that doesn't care about people.
At all.
And for that to be the case in 2023, for us not to acknowledge that, and for us to continue running society in this way where people just don't matter at all, and their concerns or their issues are just not getting addressed, that is not a circumstance that we should allow to continue on this planet, okay? Especially, but just even locally here in this community, it should not be going on.
Everybody should care about this. I mean, because nobody would want this to happen to their little second grade child. I mean, I would hope you wouldn't. But what I'm seeing is when it comes to child abuse, especially, and abuse of women and girls on this planet, it's like nobody cares. And we all have to care a whole lot more if we're going to fix anything. And I'm not seeing the caring right now, but we are working on that. That's what me and my husband are committed to working on. I mean, we're just trying to get the community to care enough about this to get this really looked into. And trust me, people, you want this looked into, not just for yourself, not just for your family members, not just for your kids, not just for Qadira, but for everybody. Because
everybody's living in this community.
That's right. It means our system doesn't work. This could happen to you. You could end up being manipulated by an attorney like this.
It means that people are unsafe here in this community.
And you have nowhere to complain to, because trust me and my husband haven't complained, and we've complained, and we've complained. And even with a living victim and all this evidence, here we are down on the corner, year 3. You know what I'm saying?
Still trying to get it figured out.
Still trying to get it figured out.
I'm tired. Folks, we are going to shut it down, though. We come out here every week. We come out here every week to try to inform the community about the horrible things that are going on here, even just with us. You know what I'm saying? But we talk about all the kinds of horrible things that are going on here, and we have some solutions if people want to listen. But it all starts with people caring about each other, okay? And my wife and I, we get out here, we wear these shirts that say "I am the value," and that's a response, okay? That is a direct response from what we experienced, okay? Because all of these people that we have dealt with in the leadership of our society here in our community have been trying to rip our value away. They've been trying to get us to believe that we do not matter.
And they've been trying to get our daughter to believe she doesn't matter.
And they've been trying to get you to believe that we don't matter.
Right.
But folks, that's why it's important. Folks, if they can get you to believe that we don't matter, they can get you to believe that you don't matter. And that is a very dangerous place for anyone to exist in. Okay, so it's important that you acknowledge that you actually have value. Aside from money, Okay, aside from your property or possessions, you yourself are actually what is the only thing that is actually valuable.
And that is something me and my husband have had to, that's a concept we've had to hang on to for dear life. Because I tell you right now, when you get told no as many times as we've had, I mean, it is like taking lashes. I feel like we've been lashed 10,000 times. I'm not kidding. Every time after our daughter was abused, we were told this doesn't matter, go away, these people are never going to be prosecuted. Even now today, we are still fighting for the prosecution of the people who abused our daughter physically, psychologically, all of it. And we have to believe that eventually something is going to change and that we are going to move and we are going to get justice. This needs to happen because, like I said, the system is far more broken than people understand. And it is not a good place for victims. I'll tell you that right now.
It's not a good place for anyone.
It's a very dangerous place for victims. And I also believe that it's a place where a lot of violence is being incited in our communities because the way we've been dealt with would probably have caused somebody who isn't us to commit a mass shooting or to blow everything up because it's really unconscionable. We like I said, we turn to God and not to violence, but most people, if you look around the globe, they do the opposite. They turn to violence and they don't turn to God. And they certainly don't turn to nonviolent conflict resolution because it's not something that's modeled on the planet. So it's not necessarily something that people are even hungry for. People love violence. One of the reasons we're up here alone week after week is people don't like to come to nonviolent protests. They like to go to the violent protests because they don't feel like there's anything in it for them. There's no instant gratification in a lengthy, sustained, peaceful protest. And this protest could go on for many, many years. It may go on the rest of our life. We don't know when law enforcement is going to act. That's on them. You know, that's when you choose to do wrong. You know, that's the contract you have with the universe. If these people want to do wrong by our daughter and do wrong by our family, they will have to take that up with God. But we'll keep getting out here and giving them the opportunity to change that. Because I don't think anybody who is involved in this crime needs to be covering up this crime. We don't need them on the bench. We don't need them on the force. We don't need them in our hospitals. We don't need that. We need the criminals to be arrested, okay? Especially ones in positions of power, because they're the ones doing the most damage. So we're going to shut it down with our affirmation. I'm going to let my husband lead it. We'll see everybody next week for week 86. Like I said, we are 100% committed. We have no timeline. We will be up here for the rest of our lives if we have to.
So here it goes, folks. I am the value.
I am the value.
You are the value.
You are the value.
We are the value.
We are the value.
We're not talking about money. We're not talking about gold or silver. We're not talking about cryptocurrency. We are talking about your actual life. That is the only thing that is valuable. Okay? So here it is again.
I am the value.
I am the value.
You are the value.
You are the value.
We are the value.
We are the value. Know it. Embrace it, folks. Embrace it, because that's the only way that we are going to turn our world around.
It's heavy spiritual protection for these times, and I do believe, I mean, these are the end times, because we can't go on like this. So I hope everybody understands these are the end times, because humanity cannot go on like this, because the way we are treating one another and the way we are ripping apart our world and ripping one another apart, this we can't just keep doing this. It can't go on and on and on. That's why you see things devolving everywhere. We need to turn it around spiritually, and we have a lot of work to do. So we'll be back next week.
But we're going to say it one more time. Hold on, sir. Wait.
I am the value.
You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. Thanks, Multnomah Village.
Thank you, Multnomah Village.
Nick wants to say one thing here.
And we'll let him.
And here's my, what we already talking about, the lyrics we made up, and here's my lyric for the day. to concentrate on Q Shakur's life in this 5-part saga. It's going to be an episode that started on FX on April 21st. But just remember my lyrics about his life dedicated to him. Too late, play a bye-bye. I got your number and I'm gone. And now he's always dead. Baby, yeah. And now he's always dead. Yeah. That's lying to you today.
All right, thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, everybody, we'll see you next week. Like I said, we're just going to keep pounding away at this. We're going to get there. God bless.
Got your number, I'm gone.
I should turn it off first.